Hi, Matt. I was looking forward to talking to you.
It was so clear to me that this is just about basically one person talking to another.
I really get turned on by like good ideas and good stories.
If people like it or whether they don't like it.
I've been cursed and blessed with an overactive imagination.
MattLees Gets Creative contains themes and subjects that may not be suitable for everyone listening. If you're easily offended, we suggest that you get your podcast on elsewhere.
Right here, right now, on MattLees Gets Creative.
I can't tell me rubber guns and rubber machete and shotguns, baseball bats. And yeah, in the movie, I'll tell you something now people may not know is if there's an actor running with anything, if he's running through the woods or running with a shotgun or a machete or jumping, that gun or that machete, that's not real.
Our guest this week is most certainly an authority on this subject. He's a foam prop, and costume builder. It's Evil Ted Smith. He's worked on Star Trek Into Darkness, The Walking Dead, and Fifth Element, just to name a few, and he's here this week, my guest on MattLees Gets Creative. Please don't forget to follow us on your social media, which is ML Gets Creative. That's for Instagram and Twitter. You'll never miss an episode. Please send us an email. Let us know what you think. MattLeesGetsCreative@gmail.com. Thank you so much for all your support on the show. We're having a great time. We hope you are too. Thanks for listening. Firstly, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And also, I want to say a big shout out to your I Want to Believe poster from X-Files on the wall behind you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Absolutely.
That's the one that Mulder has in his office.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Lots of little trinkets sitting around. I'm a big guy for nerddom and things like that. So that definitely caught my attention looking through your work as well. So the basis of the podcast is I'm a musician, so I want to talk to other creative individuals about their experience, and I find that I have a lot in common with them, be it writers, directors, actors, props masters, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, we all have the same excitements, passion, demons, procrastination, drama. Yeah, it's self-doubt. It's like it goes in anything that's creativity that involves just your passion. Yeah. It's all the same.
Yeah, I always use like kind of the gift and the curse of it all, you know, because there's also I find there is sort of an almost, you don't like to use the word bad side to it, but there's almost that negative side to being a creative individual in a world where you're the rare one. So you're always kind of weird to your friends and your family, maybe. You know, that's how I've always felt anyway, you know.
I grew up in the Midwest in St. Louis, Missouri. It's a small town. Bridgeton, Missouri is the suburbs. And I was always creative as a kid. And my parents were always like, oh, he's so talented, but like, what could he do? Like I never, ever did my parents ever think that they thought what I did was cute and interesting, but I could never make a living at it.
Right.
And I always kept thinking as I got older, I'm like, well, there is toy designers and people that make things, and there's artists and there's comic books, and like those guys do it. But my parents, God bless them both, came from a different era. You know, it was like from the point to where I always try to explain to people that from the grew up in the 40s and 50s, in the 60s and 70s, it was like your mission was to go find a job and work for a company, put your life into it, and when the job was over, you got your benefits, your retirement, and that was the foundation. And honestly, everybody did because it worked, and it did work back then. And a job was something that was not liked or loved. It was a job, and that was why people described that. So the word job had a negativity tone to it because nobody's supposed to like their job. It was just like, and that's how I was raised. Is that yeah, of course you can paint and make things when you get home, but you gotta have a job.
Right. Yeah.
So the job is the thing that you do not use, the thing you like the least, but you make the money at it. And the concept of making money, that's something that you love doing, was so foreign. And that when I actually moved out and to Los Angeles in California in 1989, finally started doing my job. They were working me like slave labor. I was working 14, 15 hours a day, making like $17 an hour, and I didn't care. I was so damn happy.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it was crazy.
Yeah, my first job in radio was being like the mascot. And I remember one specific day on a rainy Canadian December, that sleet and snow you get, and I was wrapped in Christmas lights, standing out with my arms out on the middle of a street, and people were hanging ornaments on me because I was the intern at the radio station, and you put up with a lot to do the things you love, and,
Exactly. And the thing is, and a valuable lesson to take that for all your listeners out there. There's this generation now where people just want to come out and I want to get paid. I want to get paid. And starting off, like having that gumption, like, hey, I got the fire, I got the energy, I can do this. Telling people that you have gumption and fire and the grit to do it is not enough. You have to show people what you can do. Mm-hmm. And so you have to be willing to work for free. You have to be willing to put in the time. And if there's something you really want to do for a shop or a company or a playhouse or a theater or something, it's like, be willing to volunteer for free, because they're not going to take your word for it. But if you could show them
that's right.
that, and by showing them and doing it, you build a portfolio, you build a resume, you build a body of work. But that this gumption, like I always tell people in the intern world, don't be prepared to work for free, especially if it's something, because it's a funny thing. Like the job you're going for, everybody wants it. All right. There's maybe 5 or 6 job openings and everybody wants that job, and they're only going to hire like 10 people. Yeah. So guess what? You know what you're going to do that everybody else is not going to do? You're going to work for free. And that's your foot in.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. And there also is then, once you've done that and earned your stripes, as it were, there is also that fine line then where you no longer have to work for free. But there definitely is that time where you have to earn it, because like you said, you have to prove yourself. So, I've done shows where I've just gone to restaurant bar owners and said, look, man, I'll set up my own stuff. I'll play in the corner. You don't have to pay me anything. If you like me, maybe invite me back another time, and sometimes you have to do that kind of thing. So, I always like to start at the beginning of the initial inspirations, and I read on your website. Now, mine was seeing the Beatles and seeing musicians play and watching them going, that's what I want to do. That looks like fun.
Wait. You saw the Beatles?
Well, no. I mean, I mean, hearing them and seeing them on TV, and no, didn't see them. Sorry, you're right. Choose my words carefully.
I was like, holy cow, dude.
No,
time machine.
Yeah, I know. I mixed up my stories because one of my moments was I saw Elton John play live with Eric Clapton, and I remember I was very young, but I remember the impact that it had on my dad, and that was the first moment of me being like, "Wow, music is powerful." Now, according to your website, because I do my research, because I'm nothing else but a professional, for you, that moment, that Elton John, Eric Clapton moment, was a Darth Vader helmet. And that was your moment of kind of like, that's cool. And that's what I took from what I read anyway.
Well, it was Star Wars. It was like, I was young. And here's the thing. I always loved sci-fi. I always liked things. And we had Star Trek. Logan's Run. This is really cool for your podcast. I'm going to give you stuff that people don't know. When I was really young, anything sci-fi, and Logan's Run was a film in the 70s. It came out, and that really blew me away. I think, I loved it. The whole concept of a civilization, and they had a problem with population, so they created this whole thing to where you have to basically die at 30 to keep the population down. And so these guys are called Sandmen. If you didn't volunteer your death, you'd run, they'd hunt you down and kill you. And I was like, oh, so cool. So I made like a Sandman pistol. I made all a cardboard and poster board, and I would start dressing up like that. And I always would make things, but I always like make little things. And all of a sudden, when Star Wars came out, that was when the doors were blown off. I was like, okay, this is the bomb. This is what I love. All that movie had, and people don't realize that why that film became so huge was 2 things happened at the time. 70s had nothing but gritty. It was the era of like dark thrillers, cop thrillers, murder mysteries, psychological and stuff. It's like, but it was a really dark era for television. And all of a sudden, this fun, adventurous galaxy far, far away, and another, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, it was this whole different realm. And America did not, George Lucas, it was lightning in a bottle, because nobody realized what American theatergoers needed. Something they needed that. And when that came out, that film blew up, and there's this old phrase that people use now all the time called blockbuster. And blockbuster is what that word came from is that they meant that the line to go see the movie went around the block.
Yeah.
So the phrase blockbusters, and that never happened until Spielberg made Jaws, was the first one.
Yeah.
And then of course George with his Star Wars. And those are both blockbuster films. The idea that people would go see a movie again, it was like people saw a movie, like, oh yeah, I saw it. And then once you saw it, like a TV show, once you saw it, you were kind of over it. And both those films, people went back and watched them over and over. The studios were freaking out. Everybody's like, what? They already seen it. They're going back to see it again.
Yeah.
And that was a phenomena in that era. And so I was right there at ground zero when it happened. And I like me and a bunch of other young people and filmmakers and directors out there were blown away. And so that opened my mind. So I wanted all this stuff, and there was no outlet to teach me how to.
Yeah.
So I just doing stuff.
Because like some people see Star Wars, okay, and they go, man, I want to be an actor. Man, I want to be a director.
Right.
I mean, I saw it and I was like, I love the music. Like, who creates the music for the stuff, you know? But for you, it was like the prop side of things and the tangible things. And it's one of those things that I'm also a big pro wrestling fan. And when they talk about a pro wrestling referee, because it's a dance, a good referee, you don't really notice him, right? But he's doing a lot of stuff. And I think if you look at props and background work of actual physical sets and things, is that sort of the same kind of idea? Because the really good stuff, we're not going to notice at all, but then that's all your hard work and everything that goes into it for you?
Yeah, like it's just, there's so many different levels of, everybody has their niche. And as a going joke with my friend, I have a friend who does audio. That's her job. She does audio and background music, like basically it's Foley work, like sounds, rain, travel, glass breaking. And when they're shooting that stuff's not there.
Right.
They add movies later because they want to have control of those background sounds. And my other friend does physical effects, cars blowing up, rain, lightning outside the window. And both these people, I go to see movies with them. And periodically, my friend Lisa, we were watching a movie and she just giggled and started rolling her eyes. I looked at her and went, she goes, the party background Foley sounds is like, she knows which track that is.
Right.
Because she's a million times over. She knows the girl's laughing and the phrase, and she's kind of rolled her eyes because there's a library of sounds for parties. And I started laughing because she's like, oh, I hate that background. And so I'm like, of course, you at moviegoers don't hear that.
Right.
And then watching the movie with my friend JD, who does the physical effects, it's raining. There's a scene, I think it was like, oh my God, it was with Kurt Russell, Tombstone. And it was raining. And it was raining outside. And JD, he just kind of rolls his eye, goes, the raindrops are too big.
Right.
Like, he goes, they didn't use the proper filter. The raindrops are coming down too heavy. And again, I'd laugh and say, even though what I do for a living, I make props and costumes. When I watch a movie, I really do shut off. And like, I don't start looking at the stuff until the second time I view it. When I go to see a movie, I just try to like let it go. The only time I'll look at if something stands out really bad,
right.
If something jumps out at me, like, oh, that's terrible, or like, then it jumps out. But normally, I'm such a moviegoer. I really unplug to watch a movie. I don't like watching trailers. I just want to go and watch it untouched. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Which is, I think, I think it's very fortunate for you because a lot of artists I talk to, they can't shut off. I say we because I have a real hard time listening to music for the love of music because I'm either placing myself in it for how I would cover the song or I'm listening to the vocals to see how I would have done it differently. And I find I can't shut off sometimes. It's very tough for me. So it's very cool that you're able to go and see a movie and still enjoy it. But I think it leans to my point when you say, like, if you see something really terrible, then you're like, oh man. So, because if everybody's doing their job, then you don't notice anybody's job. Because I remember,
the thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's movies where people like will start pointing out the beer bottle. Oh, one scene it's half empty, one scene it's half full. And I'm always like, dude, you're not watching the movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's movies I've watched. For example, Star Wars. There's movies I've seen a bazillion times, and my friend is part of the 501st. I think he's a big Star Wars junkie. So the 501st are, for people who don't know, is a group of people that dress up in stormtrooper costumes, and they're really super mad legit about their costumes being exactly like the ones from the movie, from the first Star Wars universe and stuff. So the 501st, there's the storm. So he paused. Because over the years, Star Wars was on film. we watched on film. There's a softness, there's a grain to it. And now everything's Blu-ray and DVD and high res. He would sit there with his Blu-ray of Star Wars and he would pause. I'd look, and the stormtroopers in the background are just vacuum formed plastic costumes from the 70s. So everything was still kind of new back then. So the suits were cracking and breaking all the time.
Yeah.
And when you freeze frame, you can see white duct tape on the stormtroopers' costumes in the background.
Yeah.
There's like the guys, the side of their chest pieces would come apart. There's a shot of Darth Vader doing this big dialogue scene. There's a stormtrooper on the side of his, if you stop and look, is a big piece of white duct tape holding his armor together. And the shoes, they couldn't find white shoes for the stormtroopers. They bought boots and spray painted them white. And so every time they come in, the shoes would just get scuffed, and because it's just spray paint on shoes, so they'd get scuffed and dirty. If you watch out the movies, they're just scuffed up, dirty shoes, and in between shots, they'd run in with spray paint and touch them up.
Yeah, which is great. It exposes both of our ages, because we come from a time when when they made Star Wars, they didn't know there was going to be cassette tapes, and then we could slow it down, rewind it, and watch it over again. They would have a limited cinema run, and that'd be about it. So those kinds of things, now they can't get away with that. It's all Blu-ray, 4K or 10K, whatever it is now.
I know, it's so ridiculous. I work at a prop house now.
Right.
Well, I used to, and that was the one thing that drove us crazy. Is like everything had to be like, the prop masters were like, oh, what about the screw head? And I'm like, and you want to say, dude, nobody's going to see it. And granted, in high def, you could, but in reality, I always say, if they're looking at the screw, dude, they're not watching the movie.
Yeah, we're doing something else wrong if they're focusing on that.
Exactly.
Because some of my favorite movies have blatant errors in them, but it doesn't affect them.
Huge. Yeah.
And I never noticed them at the time. But for when I was young, back in the day, as they say, I was a huge fan of the Mighty Ducks movies. And as they've cut those Mighty Ducks movies together of course, kids playing hockey, you see scenes where one of the kids will score a goal, it'll cut to the bench, and they're all celebrating, and the kid who scored the goal is now on the bench screaming, "Yay, great job scoring that goal." But when I'm a kid, I watch these movies 100 times. I never saw that. Now you go back on a DVD and you're like, wait, how can he be there? But, it's just, you have to kind of, like you said, shut off and enjoy the storytelling for what it is.
Exactly. And I just recently watched a movie. It's called Bad News Bears. Right. It was shot in the 70s, and Walter Matthau played a rehab. He was basically once a fantastic ball player, turned to an alcoholic, but he ends up meeting these kids. And, oh, my God, you want to talk about politically incorrect?
Oh yeah.
Like, there's so many. There's the N word. The N bomb drops a couple times, and they're just and they're yelling at the old man, and there's all these kids are swearing, and you're just like, but the thing is, I always tell people, I was watching this with my wife, and she was like, "Oh my God, this stuff's so un-PC." I said, "But you know something? That was the time."
Oh yeah.
I'm not trying to. It's like that's how things were. I always get upset when people want to go back and change the past. I'm like, no. It wasn't great, but don't rewrite history. That's how things were back then.
Yeah. So
when you watch that movie from the 70s, this is how it was back then.
Oh yeah. I mean, when you say that, I think back to, I love old stand-up comedy. Two of my favorites being Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor. Those guys would probably not be allowed to perform live stand-up anymore these days. Not a chance. No,
not at all. And there's the people but now with the power of Netflix, and shows, like, you're right, network TV would never have them on, but now all those raunchy comedians are making their research now with Netflix and stand-up shows, and they get big, So right.
So when we talk like career for you, because I look at the list of things you've worked on, both acting, writing, directing, puppeteer, and of course creating models and miniatures and things. It's such an unbelievable. What's a vast career, shall I say? Like, you've done a little bit of everything. It's very cool.
Here's what happened. I'll tell you what happened. My career wasn't planned like that. It was kind of like, it was a roller coaster when I came out. I was 25 years old.
Yeah.
I came to Los Angeles and I hit the ground running. I knocked on doors, and I had a friend named Richard, and Richard was working on this TV pilot show called Miracle Landing. It was about the Aloha tragedy, about the plane. You guys can Google that one. It's but a plane that was flying, Hawaiian Airlines, and the top of the plane just peeled open, and they had one fatality. A flight attendant went out, and the guy landed the plane. So it's this like real life hero story. So they make a TV movie, and my job was to help do this visual effects with the plane ripping and the building the cockpit of the plane. And I started doing that, and I loved it. And so it went from prop building, set building, then I ended up getting into miniatures, and so I became a model maker. So I started, and so I spent the first maybe 7 years almost being a model maker, 7 years of being a model maker, just making miniatures and stuff. And it led me all the way up to the movie The Fifth Element.
Right. Yeah.
And it was on Fifth Element. So in that time when I was doing the low budget stuff and being a model maker, there was a lot of low budget films, and I filmed with these makeup guys. And my friend Steve Wang was making this movie called Film Rascals. It's a super low budget film he did himself. So I played in the movie. I played a character, and I played a couple of monsters. And he really liked me as the monster. He thought I was really good and had great body language, and I could take direction well. So he got the gig to direct this film called The Guyver. So as we were working, he goes, "Hey man, I want you on the show, The Guyver." So I was also working in the shop, and I think back about this. I was working at the shop, making molds, busting my ass, and I was making $50 a day. That was my rate, and I was like, and I look back on that because like I didn't care. I'm like, oh, they said, "Well, Ted, can we pay you $50 a day?" And I think back about like, it wasn't $50 an hour. It wasn't like a day rate. It was just like, we'll pay you $50 a day to show you 8 hours, if not 15-hour days of work. And so I did. And how I got rewarded is that I was already cast to play this monster. So the show, and I ended up getting in the acting guild as playing this monster. And so my pay increased, and I got to play a monster in the movie. And that was a blast. And so, and that opened doors for me because then I had other scenes, other shows where I'd get to play a monster, and I had a reel. I could show people what I'd done. And then eventually, as I kind of went backwards, but when I got to Fifth Element, by that time, digital technology was coming in. So Fifth Element still had a lot of models. The background city was a miniature. Majority of all this stuff in the film were done as miniatures and digitally compositing. But a lot of digital stuff was starting to happen. And so I segued from that onto Titanic. And by the time Titanic wrapped, I was like, I don't want to be a model maker anymore. I really don't. I want to get into something more fun. It's kind of like I'm just making the same thing over again. I was exhausted. So I switched my gears and started getting into costumes and creature making and costumes and props. So by the time I did that, that's when the digital wave came in and CG took over all the model work.
Yeah.
Every shop in LA that built models had to close their shops because there was no more work anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, as an outsider, as far as professional filmmaking goes, there really is no replacement, for the actual models and miniatures, is there? I mean, graphics look great, but they never replace like a physical set, a miniature that's been filmed,
No, but the problem is that it says that you and I think that, and Joe Public thinks that, and some directors think that, but overall, it's just pretty much guys. It'll never come back to enough that we can have a shop. The only guys that do it now is Weta. Right. Weta is the only shop that's kind of, because by the time they came around and went to do Blade Runner, the new one, was it the 2019 or what was the?
Yeah.
Not
2018 perhaps.
And the new Blade Runner movie.
Yeah.
Was that they went all this miniature stuff and then went to Weta because there was no other shops to go to. Like, Weta does models, we'll go to those guys because there's been no model work for so long that every shop that would do it in LA are all gone.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
and I mean, you even have on your with puppeteer work as well. So how does it cross over from the prop making into? Is that coming from you started designing creatures and therefore showing people how they move and things?
Right. No, mostly I was in a suit, but they would. The word puppeteer is a weird word because I was doing. There's a TV show. There's a TV show called The Others, and it came and left. It was like they're basically trying to do like an X-Files ripoff and. With these people that had supernatural, super paranormal powers or whatever. And this was like still back in the X-File era. And I played a ghoul or a demon. And I was trying to work with these people. And it was a paying gig. It was a SAG actor, Screen Actors Guild. I'm a guy. And as soon as the girl goes, so she kept going, "Oh, you're a puppeteer." I said, "No, I'm performing. I'm acting in the film." She goes, "Oh, but you're a puppeteer." And she kept saying it, and it was making me angry because a puppeteer is a guy that sits on a box or a chair, puts his hand in a puppet. And I said, that's far more comfortable than showing up at 5 o'clock in the morning having makeup put on my face and having dentures and contacts so I could look like a different creature. And then I work like 8 or 10 hours a day in this costume where I can't eat normally. And then I have to sit down and take breaks because I'm getting overheated because I have my makeup on. Said, no, lady, I'm not a puppeteer. I'm a performer.
Yeah.
And so that was, so what had happened was the puppeteer ranking was I did Batman Returns with and there was these penguins on set. And there's a bunch of penguins, and I got and I puppeteered those things because they had real penguins on set, and we had puppeteer penguins, like mechanical penguins.
Well,
so I did that.
For me as a kid at that time, those were scary penguins.
Yeah, they were. They're fantastic, and the real penguins they had there were amazing. There was these 2 different sizes of penguins. They had smaller ones, and they had these ones that were about the size of a 2-year-old child. They're these giant penguins, and I forgot what name they were. They had a name for them. But they were amazing, and they kept telling us they look cute and cuddly, but do not get near the penguins. Don't touch them. Only people who get around them are the penguin handlers. And we're like, okay. They said, reason we tell you this because their beaks are strong. And they said if they go to bite you, they said think about a pair of vice grips locking on your arm, then pulling back quickly.
Yeah.
And we went, okay, that's enough. Thanks.
Yeah. So I was okay to be scared of them as a child. I wasn't just being a baby.
Yeah, you're correct.
I mean, that's when the Batman movies were proper scary. Like, that was a proper creepy Batman film for me. And I loved it, but it was dark and creepy.
Yeah, it was. It was actually the last Michael Keaton one. Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as then, so do you prefer then the prop making? Do you prefer the acting? Do you prefer the being a performer?
The acting thing, I won't lie. I kind of fell into it. It was a lot of fun. There's people who are truly actors that love it, and it's a craft, and it's a talent that they hone, and they work on it, and they do their techniques and their acting that is something, and I always say, I'll tell people, I don't mind having a cameo or doing a small part, but I leave the acting to the actors, and I really appreciate it because I wrote and directed a film called Guardian of the Realm, and I'm sure it's out there on YouTube. You could probably, the digital age will steal things left and right, so it's probably out there. But I wrote it, and I had a friend of mine come aboard with me, Wyatt Weed. He helped me write it. He co-wrote it with me on the script. It was my concept. We wrote together. I got the money. We shot it. And I would sit on set and watch these people take my dialogue and portray these characters I wrote. And I would start watching I'd watch them do a scene. I would get so much wrapped up in watching the scene, I forget to yell cut.
Right.
Because I felt like I was watching like a live action show. I'm like, oh, cool. And I finally realized, something? These people are actors. This is great. Like they're actually writing. They're actually saying what I wrote down and making me believe what they're saying. And that's the gift. So no, I love making stuff far more. Making stuff's awesome. I love building with my hands. I like being the guy behind the camera far more than in front of it.
Well, I mean, as a musician, of course, and a podcaster, I've never actually produced anything tangible or real, right? Everything I've ever done is always just audio. So I'm always blown away by somebody who can draw a picture, somebody who can paint something, and especially somebody like yourself who can just create things. Now, you've obviously sci-fi and fantasy things, but have you found yourself having to make sort of or replicate everyday props and things like that as well? Is there a big difference in that?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah. When I worked at the prop house, that's all we did. It was boring.
We'll head right back to our conversation. I know. We all hate ads on our podcasts, but indulge me, if you will, just for a moment. Here at MLGC, we've started a patron program, but it's not like many of the other programs that you hear about, and that's for one special reason. And that reason is it's all for a great cause. See, during season 1, we donated half of all our patron donations to the Velindre Cancer Center right here in South Wales. It's a fantastic hospital run by amazing people that are saving lives every day, including my own. For season 2, we wanted to step things up, so I'm glad to let you know that from here on out, we're donating 100%. That's each and every penny we receive through our kind supporters to the Velindre Cancer Center. Sure, we could use the funds towards the cost of running a show, but we wanted to do more with your kind donations, so we're paying it forward. If you'd like to help out, you can join the Creative Club, and it's $5 a month. You'll get access to exclusive episodes, a chance to submit questions in advance for upcoming guests, and you'll have the knowledge that you're helping me help others. I know everyone can't afford to donate to every cause, no matter how worthy they are. But if you are looking to spread some love, like our dear friend and supporter, the patron saint of podcasters, Librarian Kate, then we'd love to have you be a part of it. Check it out at patron.podbean.com/MattLees Gets Creative. That's patron.podbean.com/MattLees Gets Creative. Join the Creative Club and help us battle cancer one podcast at a time. I just came up with that last part on the fly. That's pretty good.
I can't tell you rubber guns and rubber machete,
Right.
shotguns, baseball bats, and yeah. In the movie, I'll tell you something right now. People may not know is if there's an actor running with anything, if he's running through the woods or running with a shotgun or a machete or jumping, that gun or that machete, that's not real because they could drop it, they could damage it, or they could fall on it, hurt themselves. So it's like, and there's all these like restrictions and laws, and you got to protect the actor. So like. Everything's a stunt version of everything. It's amazing. So it's like, so when we do something like we did the pirate movies.
Yeah.
We did. I think it was the one with the gold, with the Fountain of Youth and the Grail, the cup, the Fountain of Youth cup, and this thing was this ornate emerald jewel thing with this jade thing, and so it had to be super ornate. And of course, they need like 12. You can't just make one.
Right.
We had to make 12, and every time you do one, then we have to age it and dirty them all up. Oh no, but you can't just age and dirty up. They have to age and dirty them up and match. So you're sitting there with a brush trying to age something, and they have to look all identical. And the thing that's so funny about it is when you watch the movies, like nobody ever looks at it that close, but you get the prop masters and the directors, but it was fun. But that work like that over time, it was just exhausting.
Oh yeah.
It's like.
Because you're doing something very cool and interesting, but you're also kind of doing something repetitive and kind of like a job, which is hard for a creative person. Yes,
and I told people no matter what you do, doing anything long enough over and over again, it turns into a job.
Oh, of course.
So yeah, but again, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that was the aspect of the prop making and thing of that shop. So yes, we would make, and we got Star Trek, and I was thrilled. So I got to make Star Trek. I got to make a. Which is funny. It was one of the second new ones called Star Trek Into Darkness.
Right.
And it's so funny. We finally got to work on one, and that's my least favorite one. That one I just didn't like it, and I made the giant Cumberbatch played Khan.
Yeah.
And it was originally going to be Benicio del Toro.
Right. Okay.
He was a perfect choice, and he just last minute decided he didn't want to do it when he already signed the contracts. So they're like, oh, what? So they immediately needed somebody because the show was in production. They couldn't stop. They had to keep shooting. And he didn't want to do it all of a sudden. He wasn't showing up on set. So they're freaking out. So Cumberbatch was available. And he's also an incredible actor. And they're like, he's available. So I had a lot of friends who were like, get all pissed off. Like, Cumberbatch was a horrible choice for Khan. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't their first choice either. But he came and saved the day. Even though the movie itself was a bit of a mess. But long story short, I built this giant Klingon gun that they made me build, and we built a bunch of them. And I made a lightweight one, and they made us art direct the crap out of it. We put little rivets and details and lights, and it's on the screen for literally 5 seconds, and he drops.
And it's all your work. Now,
yeah, and I chuckle because that's just the biz, though. That's how it always is.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a question that comes off incredibly ignorant and will make things sound very basic, and that's not my intention. But at some point in your workshop, you have an empty desk in front of you. And then at a later point, you have a Klingon laser gun in front of you. So when you say make it, what is that process like in a literal sense? Like I know that if I'm right, you work with foam as well, but from like an actual aspect of, time to make a gun, does it start with drawings provided by the network, directors, producers, artists?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I always tell people when it comes to the movie business, they always start with drawings, right, or a concept of design. And when I was younger, I always thought, okay, they would give you a drawing, like a blueprint. So you'd get an artist rendering, you get a blueprint, back side, front, up side,
right.
And no, what do you do? And I got so like, you'll be surprised what little they give you to build with. Like, here's what we want, and so we got this drawing of the Klingon, this rifle.
Yeah.
It's just it's a 3/4 artist rendering of this giant cannon. There's no dimensions, no scale. They're like, it's just, there it is. This is it. We're like, oh, okay. So then we're like, we sit down with the prop master and go, well, how long do you think this could be? Oh, about this length. Okay. So then we write that all down. And we're like, what's on the other side? He goes, I don't know and I don't care. Just make it up. We're like, okay. So we're going to make it up. Whatever we don't see, we'll make up. We'll just take what we see here and just flip it.
Yeah.
So it's a process. But then again, while you're doing this, they're like, the clock is ticking. So production, the biggest enemy is time. And what drove us crazy was we got the show Star Trek. We got it. And we had like 3 weeks, I think it was like 4 weeks or something like that to do the show. And, hey, you guys got Star Trek. We're like, great. And begin. But we don't have any drawings. Oh, they're coming. So we're sitting around waiting. And the clock is ticking. So we yell at the prop master, like, hey, where's the drawings? And, oh, well, we haven't talked to the director yet. Director, well, somebody needs to yell at the director to make his decisions. So then by the time the director goes, okay, we have a week and a half.
Wow.
Went from, we have a bunch of week, we were kind of like, cool, we have plenty of time. Nope, because the indecisive, the prop master is not pushy enough. You have the indecisive director. It becomes this whole and so what I'm describing to you happened all the time for 15 years in this prop house. It was the different show, same stuff all the time. So that is what became exhausting because we get all this time and then they would never give us and it just was pure incompetence. Nobody was like doing their job or nobody's answering questions. And so that's where the fun got knocked out of it for me.
Yeah. I mean, I have a similar experience with music, like getting gigs that would show up kind of like last minute, and then we wouldn't sound as good as we could have if they would have booked it properly and not last minute, and then
no, you're absolutely right.
And then you inevitably get that dude that's like, maybe you guys should, because you'll get a comment like, oh, well, it's not exactly what we were looking for, but it's great. It'll do. And then maybe you get that artist side to you that gets defensive and you're like, well, if you would have given me the 4 weeks you promised me, I would have made you exactly what you wanted and more than that.
Yeah, that was my boss. He would do that too. And I kept telling my boss, like, well, then you need to, it's like, it gets to a point where it's like, but what happens is that we don't, I'm having PTSD flashbacks, but it was back in the days. But it's like, but anyway, it's like I'm sorry, guys. I didn't come on this podcast to rag. I'm just letting people know that.
Of course,
there's a reason I stuck to it is because I loved it so much, and I really did. And every day was a challenge, and the challenge and the hiccups and the have to come up with quicker and faster ways of learning how to build something is pretty much what made me I am today.
Right.
What made me made me who I am today in the sense of being a builder and a fabricator. And so when I took time off from that, it made me realize that it was a fountain of information that I wanted to share with other people.
Yeah.
So I just started watching people's videos and thought, this is this community of people building stuff. I think that's kind of cool. Yeah. So I started doing a simple video about how to make a foam helmet, and it just took off.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, I just started making more, and the rest is history. I just had a blast doing it.
I would call you open source for props and cosplay making, because they'll develop software that's open source so that I'll share my code with. I say this as if I have any idea what coding or open source really means in a literal sense, but meaning that, you share your knowledge in that because it's such a huge thing now for cosplay and things. I mean, like I have a legit friend who built his own Ghostbusters proton pack, right?
Yeah.
And the full costume, and like he tells me, oh yeah, I made it myself. And my dumb brain goes, what do you mean you made it you made it yourself? It's such a great thing that you decided to do that because it's such a big market for cosplay,
And yeah, it's a friendly, creative community. And what made me embrace it the most is that I came from an industry of techniques were secret. Like nobody shared techniques. Nobody shared like ways of doing things, that there's easier, faster way or making something better or more durable or amazing colors or paints or lightweight urethanes or plastics and stuff. You'd find stuff like that and you would keep it a secret. And the reason being because in the industry, there were so many other shops and it was all competition.
Yeah.
I will not deny that I got hardwired to be like that too. And I thought like that too. And when I got out of it long enough and started making videos, I started realizing that, wait a minute, if you think a technique makes you special, you're an idiot because eventually somebody will come up with a better way of doing it anyway. It's like a caveman going, hey, I came up with the wheel first. That's my idea. Yeah, okay, dude, but guess what? Somebody else will come up with it eventually.
Yeah.
So it's just like the evolution of stuff. So then it became this thing of freeing community and sharing ideas. And I started this thing on Facebook called the Evil Ted's Foam Fanatics. I would start streaming live on Twitch, which I stream live on Twitch every Monday and Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, twitch.tv/Evil Ted Smith.
Nice.
When I stream, people hang out. And mostly people come in to watch what I'm doing, but they all talk among themselves. And that was the first thing when I was on Twitch. I'm like, oh, this is great. There's just people hanging out. They came to watch me and learn stuff, but they're also hanging out to meet other people. And so I realized it was a community. So I started this Facebook group, and now it's growing. It's like 8,000 followers and more. And what I've discovered with this group is that everybody shares and talks and shares ideas. So therefore, because I only can get to my family like once a week,
Right.
And guys, if somebody has a building question or a crafting question, you can post it in the Foam Fanatics. You'll get a response in a matter of minutes because it's international. So you may be afternoon for you, or 2 o'clock at your house, and in Europe it's like noon. Somebody will respond.
Yeah.
So and I was just blown away of how everybody's so there to help everybody else out, and the costumes they're posting are so breathtaking. It's like I feel so honored. I feel honored to be a part of this community, and I feel like I'm so happy they accepted me, and that I'm somewhat a foam guru to some of these people. But
yeah,
it's such a humbling thing because I see the amazing work, and I just want to show. My whole mission is to get people to get out of the box of I can't do that to where you can do it. You'd be surprised.
I mean, and it's such a beautiful idea, especially with creativity, because it's so easy to be selfish and be like, I know how to get that really good guitar tone on stage, but I'm not going to tell anyone, But in everything really in life, if you've learned it, somebody had to show you, right?
Right.
So
and this is a matter of half the stuff I've learned from the time I moved out here and in the movie industry. That's how I learned. I worked with all these creative people from one job to another. I learned different techniques from everybody else. And I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, I wish I could teach you half the stuff I forgot. Yeah. There's so much stuff I've forgotten how to do. And it's like I would be at the prop house and we'd have to make something, and I would stop for a second and put my hands up, and I'd say, wait, there's a way of doing this. And they're like, yeah. I go, yeah, but give me a minute.
Right.
I said, there's a way of doing this. I did this once before. Hold on. Let me think about it.
Yeah.
And then the funny thing was they would bring props back to me to fix. And I would look at them and go, why am I fixing this? They go, you made it. I'm like, no, I didn't. And they're like, nope, Dad, you did. So we put stuff in and out that shop so fast because we were doing TV shows and motion pictures at the same time.
Yeah.
That my brain could not hold everything I was making. So
yeah, and it's just such a great idea to be able to share everything. I mean,
yeah.
I learned where I went in radio because someone took a chance on me and taught me some tricks, and then hopefully I can teach other people that. And that makes everybody better. And then like Star Wars inspired you because George Lucas made it, and then you've gone on to inspire other people. And it's just such a great way to be. Circular is not the right word. There's a nicer word to go there. But especially in costuming, like I went to Dragon Con once and it's just mind blowing.
Oh my God. I know. I love it. I haven't been back since. I went once and I was so fired up to go again.
Yeah.
And every time it comes around, it's always either I haven't got the money, I've got the costume right now. Or it's like, and I just recently got married and I have a wonderful family, beautiful wife, 2 lovely daughters and 2 dogs and 4 cats.
Right.
So now with this big family, I'm like, oh wait, I just can't drop what I'm doing and go. So I always kind of plan and schedule things. But eventually, I want to get back out to Dragon Con.
Yeah.
That was a blast.
It was a mind blowing experience for me. It's kind of like lightning in a bottle. Like you were saying, everything there lined up for me. I was able to get the time of work. I just happened to have a little bit of money. And I went to Dragon Con and it was like drop jaw moments of just like, and again, being ignorant to the whole fabrication world. I'd be like, when people say I made this, I'm like, I don't, my brain doesn't get it, man. It's such an amazing, incredible thing.
And that's the thing that's so great about us makers, is that when you're at a convention and you say it to someone and they don't get it, it's even more exciting. Because for me, it's like, I went to Germany I've been to Germany several times, and I love it. And I went to Comic-Con Germany, or Germany Comic-Con. I get those two confused. But I was out there, and this young woman walks up to me at my booth, and she's dressed as this monk character from Overwatch. And it was really cool. She said, "Hi, Ted. I'll get a picture," and we pose and stuff. So I was at the panel, and she was talking to me. I said, "Your costume's amazing." She said, "Thank you. It's my first one." I was like, "What?" So this costume was beautifully reproduced, and she made all her armor out of foam and stuff. And I was just like, but it was her only to find out it was her first costume. And then she enters the contest and gets on stage. And part of the thing with costume, I tell you cosplayers out there, when you go and have a costume and you're going on stage, a costume is only a part of the show.
Yeah.
It's your presentation. It's who you become. And this girl came out dressed as the monk, and she jumps in right in and does this amazing kata. She kicks her arm out and does this large snap, like roundhouse snap kick, and Josh's going, yeah. And the girl knew martial arts, you could tell. Right. So she does this kata, and the crowd goes wild. And we just gave it to her. Like, I think she was in the novice class, and she won. And I turned to the judges and said, "Oh, by the way, guys, this is her first costume." And the judges turned to me and go, "What?" Yeah. And I said, "I know. It's exciting." And then I pulled her aside that time, and I said, "That is amazing." I said, "Thank you so much. Your costume's amazing." I said, my stuff never looked that good." And she said, "You didn't have you as a teacher."
Oh, wow.
Age. Oh, and I was like, and it moved me. It really did. Yeah. I got touched by that. I thought, something, you're right. Because when I was 14 years old and Star Wars up there, I had no one to teach me. So that is the sole purpose of why I do what I do.
That moment gave me goosebumps. That's a beautiful moment to hear that from somebody. It's just, because you get minutes like that where it's like moment you just kind of hope for that kind of thing, don't you? Because somebody inspired you, and it's so cool that you inspired her enough that she went through with it all, and then she wanted to come and tell you too. It's such all the way in Germany too. That's the other wild part about the world these days.
Yeah, I've been out. My going joke is I tell my friends I'm the Hasselhoff of foam in Germany. So.
Yeah. So, to finish off then, what, if anything, I know now you're doing the cosplaying things. Well, one other point I wanted to bring up. You mentioned having two daughters. Halloween must be Christmas then in your household, because are they like, "Dad, I want this costume. Dad, I want this costume." Or is it the opposite of?
Where I took them to last year, their first anime convention. There's a big one out here in Los Angeles called Anime Expo, Anime Con. It's a big anime expo, and it's huge. It's enormous. It's the biggest one we have in Los Angeles, and it's crazy. And all the kids come, and there's these amazing costumes. So both of my children are huge fans of My Hero Academia. So I'm going to do the youngest one. She wants to be Deku, and the other one wants to be this bird character. I can't remember his name. I think he has powers, like he makes shadows manipulate and move, but he has this giant bird head, but he has a human body. But anyway, I'm totally aboard. So I started making these costumes for them, and that's exciting for me. So now one of the great things is that I really don't have anything to wear at Anime Expo this year, which is great because I'm not going to. I'm going to dress up the kids, dress them up, and just be in my street clothes and go, "There they are. That's them right there."
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool for those girls, huh? To be like, my dad made this costume. Do you think it would be rigged if they entered a costume contest then? Would that be an unfair advantage, you think?
Because for me, I don't neither one of them are really interested in doing costume contests.
Right.
I think there's mostly in it for the joy of walking around, looking at people. Costume contest, it's a weird thing for me because I'm always hard at judging costume contests.
Right.
Because in my mind, if you struggled and you built something and it turned out good, you're a winner. It's like I'm a horrible judge in the sense of like I just like, "Oh, they're great. They built it. They should win. Everybody should win because they built the costume." It's that when you get that conventions where I see these people that just do these amazing, like I've been to BlizzCon numerous times, and BlizzCon is the stuff where you see these competitions, and it's like movie quality stuff. These kids show up on stage with these amazing replica costumes. They're like spot on, that light up, and they smoke. And they have their performances down. They come on stage. The crowd goes wild. I'm like, how do you pick a winner? That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there's a guy here in the UK who does, we call him Cardiff Jack Sparrow. And he's a regular in all the cons here. But, I mean, his costume is unbelievable. I mean, if you just kind of glance at him, you're like, is Johnny Depp Is Johnny Depp in Cardiff? You know, I mean, it's just one of those things where when you just look and you let the magic happen, but his whole thing is self-made, and it's just unbelievable. He is also going to be a guest this season on this very show, so it's cool that it's kind of a crossover that way, you know.
Now, where you based at, Matt?
I live just outside of Cardiff in South Wales, but I grew up in Toronto, Canada. So,
because I tell you what, all you guys out there in England, that is my mission, is to come to the UK. I want to get to the UK so bad. So if you guys know any local convention or con, write to them. Let them know you guys want me, because I want to come so bad.
Well,
I want to come to the UK.
Well, the UK, South Wales has an event called Geek Fest, which happens in September this year. And the proprietors happen to be friends of mine. So maybe I'll pass an email along and see what you guys can do.
Yeah, because my wife already told me, she goes, if you're going, I'm coming with you. I said, okay, well, I'll have to buy you a ticket because I'm bringing my assistant to help me, but I'm definitely, she will be in tow. So she loves Europe.
Nice.
She's a Scot. She's Scottish blood. So
yeah, she'll love it. I mean, as I say, I'll certainly pass that. There's no harm in me passing the details along. Absolutely not. And if that were to be the case and you were coming to South Wales, we'd have to meet for a drink or two and some dinner, I think. Would be nice. Okay. So I can welcome you to Wales, you know, because that's where we live, and I'll make you welcome in my home country. Any final thoughts for wannabes out there? Any listeners out there? I didn't mean wannabes, as it can always be like a negative word. I totally don't mean it that way. For rookies, let's say, people just starting, it's a cheesy question, but I always say it sounds great in a soundbite. What advice would you give to everybody,
the youngsters out there? Everybody who wants to get in this community, their cosplay or the built costumes, it's all about starting small. If you see an amazing costume or something you want to build, it's like, it is all overwhelming in the beginning. But if you watch, and like in the videos, anything I make, if you watch from the beginning step by step and see how I do it, it's tangible. The trick is, anything you want to do with an amazing costume or prop you want to do, start with one part. Everything's a journey, like taking a bridge. So if there's a crazy, start with a helmet, or start with a forearm or a bracer or a glove. Start with something small and build it.
Yeah.
And I've always found that what happens is, if you start with something small and work your way out and keep building each part step by step, like start with a foot or the shoe or the leg. And as you build and progress, each part you build gets better. And by the time you get a majority of your costume built, you look back at that first part you made, and I guarantee you'll remake it. You're like, oh, wait, I've learned so much, I can make this again and better. And it's all about it's not the whole picture. It's little bits, pieces. It's like going on a journey and crossing a bridge. So yeah, that's all I can do.
I think that's great advice, both for creativity and for life. One step at a time, you know? I think that's
start small.
Very nice. Well, again, thank you so much. How do listeners seek you out, find your work? Evil Ted, of course.
Guys, definitely. You go to my website, eviltedsmith.com. You guys can get on my mailing list. For you cosplayers out there, I have numerous patterns in my store you can buy. Check those out. I have an event page. You click on the event, it tells you when I'm going to be next if you guys want to go. Also, if you guys... One thing I love is that I stream live on twitch.tv/eviltedsmith. I stream every other week. It's kind of random. I used to do every week, but I found that it was too much time, and I couldn't make patterns for my store because I was streaming all the time. So I've broken up every other week. So if you guys happen to follow me, come into my stream. And what's amazing about Twitch is you can interact with me live. You have questions for me, or if you have struggling with something, you can talk to me live. So it's a great place to reach me as well. Matt, thank you so much for taking time out.
Hey.
I really enjoyed myself.
Oh, thank you very much. And again, we'll talk soon, and all the best to you. Next time on MattLees Gets Creative.
This guy, again, said, all right, come through the door. When I got outside, there was a secretary, you know, in the waiting room with all the other actors, and I just whispered over to him before I went back in the door. I just said, who the hell is this guy in there with the glasses? He's keeping telling me to come in and out the door. He says, oh, that's Larry David. He owns the show and writes it. I go, oh.
Season 2 is well underway as episode 3 drops next week now. I know I always say how much I enjoy these conversations, but guys, next week's episode, I really, really enjoyed it. I cannot wait for you to hear this episode with this fascinating guest, and to be honest, I can't wait for you to hear the rest of the season. So many cool episodes lined up, so many exciting guests. You can email us, MattLeesGetsCreative@gmail.com. And please, if you do get a chance, check out our Patreon program because every penny is going to a great cause. Thanks for listening.